Genesis chapter 10. The generations of Noah are Japheth, whose descendants are Gentiles, Ham, whose descendants include the Canaanites, and Shem, of whom came Peleg, in whose days the earth was divided. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and unto them were sons born of the flood. Now, again, note that phrase. Now these are the generations. Again, so this is another change in perspective. I think before that, we had the story of Noah was probably written by Noah. Now we're getting the story of his sons. The sons of Japheth, Gomer and Magog and Madai and Javan and Tubal and Meshech and Tiras. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz and Riphath and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha and Tarshish, Kittim and Dodanim. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. Now, I will probably do another video, hopefully with a map, to show how these guys most likely, in my opinion, spread out. But you'll notice Tarshish, that was a city in the Iberian Peninsula near Spain. Most of these guys, this is primarily Europe and around the Black Sea. And that's what the Gentiles, that's the term originally seems to have meant the descendants of Japheth. It's almost like the word Gentile, Japheth. It's like the word Gentile actually is derived from the name Japheth, meaning descendant of Japheth. So it's something that's always interested me there. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan. And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Sabta, and Ramah, and Sabteca. And the sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord, wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. A quick note here, Mizraim, that is the name of Egypt in Hebrew. Mizraim apparently was the father of the Egyptians. Cush is the same as Ethiopia, which is just south of Egypt. And I believe it was, Phut, he's the guy that is west of Egypt. He's Western Africa. This is all according to the historian Herodotus. So take it as you will. Now, verse 10. And the beginning of his kingdom, this is talking about Nimrod, was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. Out of that land went forth Asher, and builded Nineveh, and the city Rehoboth, and Calah, and Rezin between Nineveh and Calah. The same as a great city. There you go. There's Nimrod was the original Babylonian, and out of his kingdom came Asher, which was the ancestor of the Assyrians. So, and Mizraim begat Ludim, and Anamim, and Lehabim, and Nephtahim, and Pathrushim, and Casluhim, of whom came Philistim, and Caphtorim. A lot of these names, if you pay attention, the Anamim, that's a race of giants later on. There's a couple of them. So Mizraim, he was the father of the Egyptians, but also the father of a couple of giant races. So it's all mixed in there nicely. And Canaan begat Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Girgashite, and the Hivite, and the Arkite, and the Sinite, and the Arvadite, and the Zemarite, and the Hamathite, and afterwards were the families of the Canaanites spread abroad. And the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon, as thou comest to Gerar unto Gaza, as thou goest unto Sodom and Gomorrah, and Admah, and Zeboim, even unto Lasha. These are the sons of Ham after their families, after their tongues, in their countries and in their nations. Now, this is an interesting one. It doesn't really exactly name the descendants of Canaan. It gives two of his sons' names, and then it lists a bunch of different tribes. So were these tribes actually named for the sons of Canaan, or did Canaan just have his two sons, Sidon and Heth, and from them came the rest? I think that most of them are probably the actual sons of Canaan, but I've always wondered why they don't actually give the names, but just name the tribes. But these are the guys that lived in what is modern-day Palestine, what would have been ancient Israel, that area on the eastern side of the Mediterranean Sea. That is where the Canaanites were. Anyways, moving on, verse 21. Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth the elder, even to him were children born. So this is where we find out in Genesis that Japheth is actually the eldest. Japheth the elder, he was the eldest son, and yet Shem got the birthright, which we are never told why. I'd like to know why, but he also says the father of all the children of Eber. Pay attention to that name for a moment. Here we go, let's continue. The children of Shem, Elam and Asher and Arphaxad and Lud and Aram, and the children of Aram, Uz and Hul and Gether and Mash. And Arphaxad begat Salah, and Salah begat Eber. And unto Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided. And his brother's name was Joktan. And Joktan begat Almodad and Sheleph, and Hazarmaveth, and Jerah, and Hadaram, and Uzal, and Diklah, and Obal, and Abimiel, and Sheba, and Ophir, and Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan, and their dwelling was from Mesha, as thou goest unto Sephar, a mount of the east. These are the sons of Shem, after their families, after their tongues, in their lands, after their nations. These are the families of the sons of Noah, after their generations, in their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. Okay, a couple more notes. We do have, coming out of Shinar, out of the land of Babylon, or land of Babel, where Nimrod is king, and went forth Asher and builded Nineveh. Now this could be the same Asher that was down here, the son of Shem, which means the Assyrians would be descended from Shem and not from Ham, which might be why they left Nimrod's kingdom, because Nimrod was a wicked king, and the son of Shem would have been most likely a righteous man, at least for a while. Now, Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided. This is when the continents split. Some people think it was during the flood, but it wasn't. The flood may have mixed things up a little bit, but it was during the days of Peleg that the continents divided and became separate lands that we now know today. But also, I want to just mention, the nation of Elam was between the Middle East and Persia. It was eventually conquered by Persia and kind of became part of it, but there were still people who identified as Elamite at the time of Christ. So Arphaxad, he's the guy that had the birthright. And then Eber. Eber's an important guy to note, and I will talk a little bit more about him in, I think, the next video when we when we get more of the genealogy down to Abraham. But there is a reason why Eber is mentioned here. It says, unto Shem also, the father of the children of Eber. And first of all, I do want to mention here that the term Hebrew. The Hebrews, in the modern day, most people think of the Hebrews as just being the Israelites or the Jews. But the term originally referred to anybody descended from Eber. That's what it means. Yet Eber, or in later, like in the book of Chronicles, it lists his name as Heber, with an H. And that is the root of Hebrew. That's what Hebrew means, descendants of Heber, or the Hebrews. It's not Hebrews, Hebrews is how it would have been originally. Because Eber, we had Noah was the great patriarch. When he died, Shem became the great patriarch. And Eber was the next great patriarch until Abraham. Abraham himself is described as a Hebrew because he is a descendant from Eber. But everybody descended from Eber would have been Hebrews. Not just Abraham, not just the Jews, not just Israel. All of them are Hebrews because they are descended from Eber. And we will leave that here.